Hi everyone. Well, for the last week, more than a week, I was kind of under the weather, so I was not able to report all the changes that came recently. So I will try to do a relatively quick update uh, based on the. I will try to group it. We play by ear. Okay, anyhow. This is the tank that was. Let me see. Focus. And now it's gone. There we go. So this is the tank that was following the first generation sea monkeys. This point is more than 36 weeks, 36, and I stopped removing the juveniles because let me see. There is the female, and that is the male. Interesting enough, although it looks like a black spot, what happened is that he got a black spot there, and looks like the roughness of the black spot uh, became perfect to for algae to grow. So he has algae in one of his mustache, and having that for weeks. So okay. So anyhow, I decided to stop following them and start. Eventually, I will move them to another tank. So at least guaranteed, we have two survivors of the first generation of 36 weeks. Why not following them? Because this tank was not ideal. It has some a few bumps on the way, so I have another tank that I plan to use for that. Okay, this is the tank. If you have seen my old Sea Monkeys videos, this is the tank that I integrated actually four of the oldest tanks. So this water and these descendants come as far back as June 19th. I tried what you see here. That is a fragment of the uh, activated carbon cube, and I tried that here, but it did work, but it was too big, and uh, so I decided I had at another point, and I don't have the box near. Okay, anyhow, this is supposed to be a volcanic rock with some positive bacteria, not positive, beneficial bacteria, sorry. And having there for a while, actually, I realized I did not put a note when I put it in. Anyhow, looks like it might have helped because I have done the increased feeding, and the water has stayed quite clearer than the other tanks. So anyhow, I'm doing this because I'm changing the approach of all the tanks, but it's related to try to keep the ammonia levels as low as possible because I did not allow in most of the tanks to set a good nitrogen cycle. So the essentially in all the tanks the ammonia levels almost maxed. But that's no problem for sea monkeys. They or brine shrimps in general. They can survive incredibly high ammonia levels. But anyhow, with the as you can check on the other videos, most of my tanks were at 8. So I decided to try to set first to see if I can set a stable nitrogen cycle that is supposed to keep the ammonia levels close to zero. And just some more, enough of that tank. Let me move to the others. So, okay, but I will be talking in another part, in another video about that. So, anyhow, something I found is that this I had not fed for a long time, and I was just churning the algae, and it was working great. But through the week and a plus that I had, I let the water be stagnant. So apparently the juveniles were not big enough yet to, like adults, that could graze on that. So because I did not move, the water became quite clear. The microparticles were not there. So it looks like all the either that it should not be that the well anyhow I don't have enough information, but the bottom point is that each day I was doing this. Let me try so you can see. Essentially, I churn the water. You see that all the algae that is loose move around, so that also put microalgae in the water. I have not doing the bubbling because I was doing this by hand because I had the bubbling here in the first generation 30 plus weeks tank. And what happened is that looks like the juveniles were not big enough to graze algae, so when I got back to move like I did right now, the few juveniles that were there were gone. So I suspect I starved them. That's why I moved this here. And also I found a video, I will see if I can find it again, in where a branching breeder clearly specify what's the problem when you have a lot of adults but and a lot of babies, but they do not grow to juveniles. I will try to put it in the description. Anyhow, so I plan to leave the bowling here now to see if that helps in the case to churn the smaller particles of microalgae to see if they survive better. Okay, so that's I will talk this in another video because this is the one of the major change. Oh, I forgot to mention. I'm not feeding them to grow the colonies anymore. So I'm not doing the high level feeding in this one anymore. I'm going back to 3 days in a week per week, not 2 days in a row, and only four scoops for this one and for this one. Because I'm not growing. Anyhow, what I was doing was moving the juveniles from here to here, and actually eventually I will integrate this into this also. Okay, so let's go below. So the same idea, I was feeding them every day, so now I'm moving back to feeding them 3 days in a row, not 2 days excuse me, feed them 3 days per week, not 2 days in a row. I think I will try first one scoop per feeding and see how they do. Because that will be a drastic back, but might be enough to keep stable the colony. And of course there is algae, so they have that also, but we will see. As I said, this also goes back to 3 times a week by the 4 scoops per feeding, as is required for this tank as minimum, recommended by Transcience. And then we have the nursery number 3 that I'm still moving juveniles from here to here. And I decided to add just after I do the major bubbling that I explained in the videos, I add them grow quickly food once a week because it looks to have help grow them faster so I can move them faster. So I'm still trying to hatch all the eggs that I got from May 4th, 2020, and still working on it. So I'm not allowing females to grow enough to drop eggs here because it will be a full servant. So we will see. We will continue working with that. Okay, so essentially the major change is that I'm moving back the feeding schedule, so possibly most of the tanks will go into a lot of adults. Come on, focus. There's always a problem here because, hey, I said that, well, anyhow. Sorry, talking to myself. So hopefully this tone is supposed to be able to work like 1 or 2 years. I have not measured the levels. That I will talk in the next part. And so the biggest thing is that I'm going into maintenance instead into grow the colony feeding schedule. So I suppose that now most of my tanks will be in at the level that there is a lot of adults, there is a lot of babies, but not focus better. But not enough. Excuse me. No juveniles will be growing. Okay, so I talk about that. Okay, so those are the major changes about that tank. Minor change in this one. I will leave it bubbling to see if that help prevent what happened of my juveniles dying because the algae was not moving around. The feeding move back to these two. The feeding move back this one, and the other feeding once a week, trying to accelerate the growth of these guys here to see if I can move all of the eggs or most of the eggs before I toss away all this gunk that have been there since May 4th. Okay, moving on to the next video. Just in a moment. See you soon.